Hey, save the date of Thursday, August the 18th. We are going to, in lieu of the Bible study in Jeremiah, as we're going verse by verse through Jeremiah, we're going to have a testimony night on that night. And it is a testimony, a very powerful testimony of parents praying for a prodigal. And in this case, a prodigal son that was caught up in the LGBTQ world and community, and they just never gave up and kept praying. And God, as only He can, did what we call a miracle. And so we want to take that night and just share and have them share what God did. So this will be on Thursday, August 18th, a week from this upcoming Thursday. This will be also live streamed. We're going to get started, by the way, right at 7 p.m. So we're not doing worship, right? Capono? No worship, right? You knew that? Okay, so no, we want all the time, nothing personal, Capono, but we don't need you. But so 7 p.m., so because usually the Bible study starts at 7:30, but we're going to get started right at 7 and just take as much time as we can and the better part of an hour and a half and share just a powerful, powerful testimony of the goodness of God. And we're really hoping it'll be an encouragement, especially for parents out there that have a wayward daughter or prodigal son. All right. This is our first of two services on Sunday morning. We do these weekly Bible prophecy updates. Second service, which will be live streamed at 10:45. Actually, on the website. I got to get my times right. 10:45 Hawaii time. Is that right? Yeah, and then 11:15 is the teaching. Okay, wow. Whew. It's been a long week, just bear with me. So 11:15 if you're on YouTube or Facebook, which on the website, actually we start at 10:45 with the worship. We're currently going through the book of James. We're actually almost done with the book of James. Today we're going to look at not just the power of prayer, but why it is that prayer is so powerful, so much so that along with God's word and salvation, prayer is actually our most valuable and powerful possession. So that's what we're going to talk about today, 11:15 or 10:45 on the website. Also, speaking of the website, those of you that are on YouTube or Facebook, we would really encourage you to, at this time, actually go directly to jdfarag.org. There you will find the uncensored, uninterrupted entirety of today's update. So with that, let's get started. I want to talk with you about how everything happening in the world today is now checking off all of the prophetic boxes, as it were, if I can borrow that metaphor and idiom. The list of prophecies in the Bible are today either already coming to pass or on the cusp of coming to pass. And I know we talk about this on a weekly basis, but the swiftness with which everything is coming to pass is absolutely staggering and stunning. So what follows, though not exhaustive, is a list of 10 such prophecies, and I want you to know that I went to great efforts to keep it at 10, because I had like 1,528 and I had to narrow it down to 10. 10 prophecies that we can either check the boxes off of as fulfilled, or prophecies that are about to be fulfilled. So I want to start with the first box prophetically that was checked, and the date was May 14th of 1948. And really, to many, this particular prophecy is seen as the one that really got the ball rolling, so to speak. And it's the prophecy concerning the nation of Israel and the rebirth of Israel in one day. And this prophecy is found in Isaiah 66, verse 8. Who has heard such a thing? Who has seen such things? Shall the earth be made to give birth in one day, or shall a nation be born at once? For as soon as Zion was in labor, she gave birth to her children. On one day, this prophecy was fulfilled, May 14th, 1948. Never before in the history of mankind was there ever a nation that returned as a nation with their language, with their culture, as a people to their land, and it was fulfilled. So, can we check that box off? Hope you brought your pens. Box number 2. The Jews would return to their homeland. This is a well-known prophecy in Ezekiel chapter 37. I want to read verses 11 and 12 and then verse 21. Then he said to me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. They indeed say, our bones are dry, our hope is lost, and we ourselves are cut off. Therefore, prophesy and say to them, Thus says the Lord God, Behold, O my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up from your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. Verse 21, Then say to them, Thus says the Lord God, Surely I will take the children of Israel from among the nations, wherever they have gone, and will gather them from every side and bring them into their own land. Check. Box number 3. Israel would become one of the world's largest exporters of produce. I don't know if you know this or not. Isaiah 27, verse 6. Those who come, he shall cause to take root in Jacob. Israel shall blossom and bud and fill the face of the world with fruit. For those of you that have been to Israel with us, these next couple, 3 boxes that we've checked off and are going to check off, you've seen them firsthand. Eyewitnesses of them. Number 4, Israel would plant vineyards. This is Joel 3, verse 18. And it will come to pass in that day that the mountains shall drip with new wine, the hills shall flow with milk, and all the brooks of Judah shall be flooded with water. A fountain shall flow from the house of the Lord and water the valley of acacias. Check. Number 5. Israel would plant forests and trees. This is Isaiah 41, beginning in verse 18. I will open rivers in desolate heights and fountains in the midst of the valleys. I will make the wilderness a pool of water and the dry land springs of water. I will plant in the wilderness the cedar and the acacia tree, the myrtle and the oil tree. I will set in the desert the cypress tree and the pine and the box tree together, that they may see and know and consider and understand together that the hand of the Lord has done this, and the Holy One of Israel has created it, as only he can and did. Check. Number 6. Actually, this was June of 1967 in what is affectionately referred to as the miraculous 6-day war, in which, according to Bible prophecy, Israel recaptured their eternal capital, Jerusalem. This is Zechariah 12:6. In that day, I will make the governors of Judah like a firepan in the woodpile, and like a fiery torch in the sheaves. They shall devour all the surrounding peoples on the right hand and on the left, but Jerusalem shall be inhabited again in her own place. Jerusalem. Check. 1967. Just to put it into perspective as we turn a corner here, not that long ago, all of these prophecies heretofore that we've checked the boxes off on, starting in 1948, that's not that long ago. Don't look at me like that. All the young people are going, yeah, it is. That was a long time ago. Whatever. It's like, when you're online and they want you to select the year that you were born. I hate that. You have to keep scrolling, scroll. Does it go back that far? Oh, there it is. Wow, it's like one of the last ones. Anyway, enough of my problems. Let's move on. All of these prophetic boxes can be checked off as being fulfilled, which now propels us to those prophecies that are today on the cusp of being fulfilled. And in the interest of time, I'll just simply mention one of the many other prophetic boxes that I truly believe, and we talk about this often, is just on the cusp of being fulfilled, and as such, the box being checked, and it's that of the prophecy found in Ezekiel 38, which you know well, as a prophecy about this Allied invasion of Israel from the north, with Russia, Iran, and Turkey at the helm. That is about to be checked. I truly believe that. Well, number 7, here's another one that's about to be fulfilled. It's this intoxicating obsession of the entire world with Jerusalem, and not just this intoxicating obsession with Jerusalem, but specifically the dividing of Jerusalem. This is already in play today, and we've talked about it. It's a prophecy about to be fulfilled in Zechariah 12, verses 1 through 3. A prophecy, the word of the Lord concerning Israel, the Lord who stretches out the heavens, who lays the foundation of the earth, and who forms the spirit of man within him, declares, I, keyword, I am going to make Jerusalem a cup that sends all the surrounding peoples reeling. Judah will be besieged as well as Jerusalem. On that day, verse 3, when all the nations of the earth are gathered against her, I will make Jerusalem an immovable rock for all the nations. Some of your translations render it a burdensome stone. This is a boundary stone. They use stones to mark the boundaries. And, you're trying to move the boundaries. You're trying to divide the boundaries. You're trying to cut up, as another translation renders it. Well, guess what? I'm going to cut you up. All who try to move it will injure themselves. You try to divide my land, I will divide you. You try to cut it up into pieces, I will cut you into pieces. By the way, you should probably be aware of the why behind the what of this, because Jerusalem is actually the city, and we've done updates on this. It's actually so fascinating. where throughout the Old Testament we read that God has chosen Jerusalem out of all of the cities in Israel, out of all of the tribes of Israel. He has chosen Jerusalem to put his name of ownership. Literally, the name of God vis-a-vis the sheen is on Jerusalem, the name of God. And you want to, that's my city. That's my city. And I've given it to my people, not my people, the so-called Palestinians. No. Those are my people Israel. It belongs to them. My name is literally on Jerusalem. And if you try to divide it, and they are, and they will, you're gonna have to deal with me, because I'm going to deal with you very decisively and judge you. Number 8. This is another one we talk about. I truly believe that by virtue of what's happened over the last 2.5 years now, back in January of 2020, when how do I say this? I'll just say it. The long anticipated deal of the century was unveiled. And it was to bring peace to the Middle East. And I'll never forget the update I did subsequent to the unveiling of then President Trump's peace plan. But I quoted paragraph and chapter and page where it clearly states in no uncertain terms that in order to end the conflict, you have to end the claims. Wait, what? Yeah, end of conflict, end of claims. So you read on, and what you discover is that these so-called Palestinians, I say it that way for a reason, and the Jews have to, if they want to end the conflict, they have to end their claims. End their claims on what? Jerusalem. Oh, really? I think there's a prophecy or two about that, and one of them is in Daniel 9:27. So this all ties together, because we're told he will confirm, I want you to hang on to that word for a moment, a covenant with many for 1/7, a period of 7 years. In the middle of the 7, the 3.5 year mark, he, speaking of the Antichrist, will put an end to sacrifice and offering, and at the temple, did you catch that? In other words, part of this peace agreement will include the rebuilding of the temple, because this prophecy presupposes that the temple is there at the 3.5 year mark. And the Antichrist is going to set himself up in the rebuilt temple at the 3.5 year mark, and he will set up an abomination that causes desolation until the end that is decreed is poured out on him. Real quick, this word confirmed is actually very similar to my native tongue of Arabic. It's the word ikbir. Ikbir. It kind of comes from and carries the idea of, I almost don't want to use this, when you hear a Muslim, Allah Akbar, Akbar, that does not mean Allah is great, it means Allah is greater. Akbar. Allah, it's hard to say, I'm sorry. I had to say it. It is basically exalting the false god Allah. And by the way, Allah is a false god, Islam a false religion, and Muhammad a false prophet. So have a nice afternoon. So akhbar is kind of along the same lines as ikbir, greater, stronger, superior, spectacular. That's implying that there's already something on the table that has to be made ikbir, akhbar, greater, stronger. We need to enforce it, confirm it. What are you saying, Pastor? Well, I think you know what I'm saying. I think the aforementioned deal of the century is going to get confirmed. According to Daniel 9:27, get your pen ready. Well, we're not going to be here. You better not be here. If you are here, you can check the box. But you better not be here to check the box. I'm sorry. It's, again, it's been a long week. I would be grossly remiss if I did not also include with this prophecy 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 4, because it comports, almost in a way fills in a couple of blanks. The Apostle Paul, writing to the church in Thessalonica, of this says, he, speaking of the Antichrist, opposes and exalts himself above every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, declaring himself to be God. He is referring back to the prophecy we just read in Daniel 9:27. This is when the Antichrist will declare himself to be God. And he will commit an abomination that causes desolation. Now, it's been speculation as to what this abomination that causes desolation is. Some suggest that he will sacrifice an unclean animal. I mean, just the declaration of being God in and of itself will be abominable. In fact, it will be this particular prophecy that the Jews will realize, wait a minute, this is not our Messiah. This is the false Messiah. This is the anti-Messiah, the anti-Christos, or anointed one, or Christ. And they will realize that they have been deceived, and they will flee for the last 3.5 years of the 7-year tribulation after this happens. And actually, if you get to Matthew 24, which is a well-known chapter, Jesus says to them, answering the question they had concerning the end of the age and his return, he's speaking to them as Jews, saying, pray that when this happens, there's this abomination of desolation, and he refers to Daniel, quotes Daniel, that Daniel talked about. When that happens, run! That's a very loose paraphrase. Don't even turn around and go back to your place and get anything. Leave your phone there. Run! Run to the place that is prepared for you, and pray that you're not pregnant when this happens, because that's going to hinder your ability to get out of there. And pray that it's not on the Sabbath, because transportation shuts down. Remember, for those of you that went to Israel with us, and when you go to the elevator on Shabbat, on the Jewish Sabbath, you push the button, push it again, it's not working. That's a Shabbat elevator. It doesn't work on Saturdays. So you have to go over to the unclean Gentile, elevator, use that one. Anyway, I digress. Pray that your flight is not during the winter or on the Sabbath. And pray that you're not pregnant when this happens. Because when this happens, the Jews will realize that Jesus is their Christ. The true Christ, their true Messiah, the one whom they pierced. That's another prophecy for another time. Number 9. Again, these are boxes that are just, on the cusp of being checked off as fulfilled. The Antichrist will control the entire world. We've talked about this. I won't take a lot of time. It's really in 3 areas, starting with a global religion in Revelation 13:4. You'll also see this in Revelation 17. We're told, so they worshiped the dragon who gave authority to the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him? That's the global religion. And then the global government, Revelation 13, verse 7. It was granted to him to make war with the saints. Now, please. The saints in the tribulation are not the bride pre-tribulation. These are what we commonly and affectionately refer to as tribulation saints. Those who come to Christ after the rapture in the tribulation. He'll make war with the saints and to overcome them, and authority was given him over every tribe, tongue, and nation. That's all of the nations on earth. And then thirdly and lastly, and perhaps in some ways more importantly, a global economy, which, by the way, is, when I say on the cusp, that's almost an understatement. I'm actually, and I would covet your prayers on this, I'm working on an update with all the research I've been doing concerning biometric ID and cashless transactions that's already being implemented, by the way. And so we're told in Revelation 13 in a well-known passage in prophecy that he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. In other words, whatever this is, and we've talked about this in the past in prior updates, whatever this is will determine whether or not you're able to buy anything or sell anything for that matter. It will be predicated on you having whatever this is in your right hand or forehead. And don't just think face-to-face commerce. Don't just think going into the store. Think about going online and buying something online, and all of a sudden a window pops up on the screen. Account suspended. Verification needed. What do you mean verification? Oh, you need to have this in order to buy what you're trying to buy online. Without it, nobody can. It is a cashless, digital technology already in use, already in place, that will use what's known as blockchain technology, which is a verification technology, verifies the transaction. Once verified, that block is added to the chain. That's what blockchain is, in a very simple way of explaining it. It's a verification technology. So once you've been verified and that you have whatever this is, then you can go ahead and buy what you're trying to buy, but without it you cannot. Well, this brings us to the 10th prophetic box that is, I want to say it like this. It's not only about to be checked off, it's already starting to get checked off. And I want to expound on it for the remainder of our time together, but in order to do that, we're going to go ahead at this time and end the YouTube and live stream on Facebook and redirect you to jdfarag.org if you're not already.